to say something. Lightweight, step to the side when we come in. Feel it in your chest, the syllables get pumping. People on the street get panic and start running. Words on loose leaf sheet, complete coming. I jump on my mind, I summon the rhyme I'm dumping. Healing is blind, I promise to let the sun in. Slip of the dark ways, we march to the drumming. Jump when they tell us that they want to see jumping. Dad, I want to see some fist pumping. Risk something, take back what's yours. Say something that you know they might attack you for. Cause I'm sick of being treated like I have before. Like a slip is standing for what I'm standing for. Like
all right, welcome. Welcome to Wide Awake Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath, your host. My website's wideawakenews.com. And if you go over there, you can join in chat with almost 100 other people. You can go to wideawakenews.com, click on Wide Awake Radio, and enter the chat room. It's the 29th of December, Wednesday. For the balance of the week, we won't have a show on Friday. Tonight, Demcad is going to be joining us on tonight's prediction show. And tomorrow night, David Chu, he wrote a piece that Rents published on his website with his 2011 predictions. So he'll be joining us tomorrow night. So tonight we're just going to have fun. And I want to make somewhat of a disclaimer before we get going. I know the guy before Lincoln Park starts playing makes this disclaimer. But I'm going to make it right now for myself or anybody calling in or Reginald. Any predictions that are made here tonight, we're not advocating anything. So if there's predictions of civil unrest, of violence, of attacks in the United States, that's nothing that myself, this show, anybody on Rents, Reginald, or any callers calling in, well, I guess I can't speak for the callers, but at least for myself and Reginald, we're not advocating anything. We're only telling you what we think is coming down the road, and we're not pulling this out of thin air or wishful thinking. We're just reading the tea leaves, if you will, look at what's happening around the world and looking what's happened throughout history when people have been put into these kind of situations. I do want to start off by saying that gold and silver had another really good day. I mean, right now we're sitting at, and let me check it out for you, $1,414 on gold and $30.70 on silver. So I'm kind of shocked by this. I thought we'd just see it flat until the end of this year, which I guess is only 2 days away, but I figured it would be not until the new Congress was in place and reality was setting in early in 2011 that things are not getting better, that we would see more efforts by the Federal Reserve to boost up the bond market and to do more quantitative easing, and we'd see gold and silver take off then. But it looks like it doesn't even want to wait for that. It's moving now. So without further ado, I'm not going to do a big, lengthy rant tonight because I just burn up too much time doing that, and I really want to hear his predictions from our co-host tonight. So let me bring on Reginald, also known as Demcad. If you are, if you haven't been following this movement for the last 2 years and you don't know who he is, he's Demcad over on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and type in Demcad, go to his channel, and subscribe to him. He puts out outstanding information. Reginald, thank you for joining us again tonight.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. Let's have some fun tonight, Reginald. I mean, you and I do a lot of serious videos. We talk about serious stuff. I want to have some, I want to hear your predictions and maybe have a little bit of fun. Maybe we'll take some calls from some of the listeners and their predictions. But let's see. We're sitting about 6 minutes before the break, so let me get right into it. 2011, we're just a few days away. What is the number one prediction you have for 2011?
Wow. I would have to say the dollar. That's something that is just pretty much inevitable. But there's so many things. There's the euro crisis. The euro is barely staying together. Well, eurozone, I should say. And there's a dollar, and of course there's the 3 states to look out for: California, Illinois, and Michigan. These are 3 states that are in serious trouble. California and Illinois, they're in such dire straits. They're in a situation where there's no more stimulus money. They're not being bailed out by the federal government, and they owe a tremendous amount of money. I don't see how that's going to be resolved without some type of bankruptcy or some type of bailout.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's going to fail. And so let's just jump right into that, since you went into states' debt or municipality debt. I'm going to give my prediction for 2011. Well, and this isn't really. But first of all, let me say, Reginald, I don't know how you feel about giving predictions. I know you do videos usually at the end of the year, looking forward. I hate doing them because people have long memories, and if you miss it, I mean, look at the grief Salente's taken right now for the collapse of 2010. A lot of people are saying he missed the boat on that. I actually don't think he did miss the boat. I think we did collapse in 2010. I think the propaganda effort was amazing and outstanding, and some of the responses with more government money, more poverty prevention programs, and more quantitative easing helped paper over the collapse. But I'm absolutely convinced when we look through the looking glass of history, we're going to be saying, the market crashed in 2008. And it didn't really start to fall apart until 2010. And by that, I mean we had numbers, crack the 43 million mark on food stamps, and we've had people now longer-term unemployed than we've had since the Great Depression. I think when history looks at this time, 2010 will be the year that it fell apart. Maybe 2011 could be the year it was realized by the people of this country. But all right, so I'm going to get to what I think is going to happen with this state debt and municipal debt. Meredith Whitney came out today talking about several cities that are going to go under in 2011. I think we're going to be surprised by this. Sorry, I almost called you Dex. As a matter of fact, I did. I think we're going to be surprised by this, Reginald, because I don't think that the bailout is coming for the states. I don't. I've thought about this, contemplated what it would mean if it didn't happen, where we're at as far as having all the criminals' debt taken care of, all the toxic assets have been shifted to the American people. So I don't think we're going to see it. And I think the cover for the government is going to be this seating of a new Congress. I think we're going to have this so-called wave election Congress come in, and they're not going to allow any more programs that are going to be to prop up the states. That doesn't mean that the Federal Reserve can't act independently and do something, but I think the failures of the Federal Reserve's quantitative easing 2 is already coming to light. They can't keep interest rates down, even though that's what Ben Bernanke went on 60 Minutes and stated. So there's going to be no appetite to bail out California, and there's going to be no appetite to outright nakedly buy municipal bonds to prop up these cities. So I think the word with the new Congress is going to be austerity. It's coming. It's coming in 2011, and these states are going to face massive, massive shortfalls. I'm looking at San Diego right now. Deficit through June 2012 is estimated to be $73 million. Budget for 2011 is $2.85 million. They're in just a world of trouble, and the second on our list is New York City. So
yeah, I forgot New York. I should have included that in the top three: New York, California, Illinois, but definitely Illinois and California. And Michigan's in big trouble too, because they're just losing people, and they're continuing to struggle with unemployment. So Michigan's going to be in serious trouble too, and I happen to be in Michigan, so that will be really interesting.
Yeah, to say the least. But Reginald, what do you think that we're going to see a continuation of the safety net, or do you think do you agree with me that austerity is going to? That's my number one prediction for 2011. And I've written down a bunch of predictions from the room. But my number one above, that I think is going to have the most effect on average everyday Americans is austerity. I think that is what's coming in for us in 2011. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it will be pretty awkward for the Republicans to extend the bailouts and extend the stimulus packages that Obama wanted after they spent so much time complaining about Obama and his plan. So I think at this point, the idea is pretty much austerity. They don't have the money, and it's pretty obvious at this point. And a lot of these people who are coming into Congress, they're not interested in creating a hyperinflationary nightmare. So we're going to be dealing with a situation where they're going to cut the spending, but they're not going to cut the spending for the wars. They're not going to cut the spending for the 700-plus military bases we have overseas. They're going to cut the spending for the people. And whether you agree with it or not, that's pretty much their strategy. So I think it's also important to point that out about austerity. Austerity is pretty much about, okay, we're going to tax the people more, and we're going to,
you're right. I'm going to interrupt you there because we have to take this break, but I want to get out there real quick. If you want to call in with your predictions for 2011, 877-342-6673. We'll be right back with more Wide Awake Radio and Reginald from Demcad right after this break. All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Wide Awake Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath. We've got about 120 people in the chat room. If you'd like to join them, go to Wide Awake News and click on the Wide Awake Radio button, and you can join them in chat. Reginald, we were talking before the break about austerity and how it doesn't apply to the wars we're prosecuting globally at this point, or the empire that we fund. And I agree with you that those things are going to be left in place. And probably expanded. However, I'm about to dump a story into the chat room that shows that how desperate times are in this country right now, and the Army and the Marines right now have waiting lists that people, if they want to join, if they want to enlist into the service, they're going on delayed entry programs because they're so far ahead of their quotas for fiscal year 2011 already. I think the Marine Corps in this article shows that they're 60% of their recruitment that they need for fiscal year 2011, which we're only a few months into, they're already at 60%, and the Army's already at 50%. So even the economy of the police state, which this could be wrapped into, is looking at trouble. I mean, when we can't even, when we're prosecuting wars in Afghanistan and Iraq that are public, and many more that are not so public, and we're funding bases all over the world, and we have that kind of military extension out there. And we're still having so many recruits line up, and the reason is because there's no jobs. These guys can come out of college and either go enlist in the military, forget about officers training course, enlist in the military, and maybe have a future, or they could try to find some low wage service job. So I even see a contraction or austerity of sorts being applied already to the military. Not for 1 second do I think we're going to take a Ron Paul stance, though, and close down a bunch of these bases. I mean, this is still going to continue. But you're right when you say when austerity, for the most part, it's going to come on Jane and Joe's six-pack. I mean, the people of this country are going to be the ones who feel austerity, even if you're not sitting in Michigan, where, what's your unemployment rate there now, Reginald, 20%?
I have no idea at this point. I stopped looking. It's just too depressing.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm in the state. I look around, I see the poverty. I see the shrinking of the middle class. No number could really fully capture what's happening, so I really stopped looking.
Yeah, and that's going to take me to one question we had. Cookie asked, what do you think the unemployment rate will be in 2011? And I'm gonna give that to you first, even though you just said you don't look. So I guess you can just generalize up, down, sideways. Go.
I think it'll have to go up. It'll have to go up because what's happening in a lot of these retail sectors, a lot of these stores. The holiday season was not what they were projecting it to be. Right. At some point, these stores aren't going to really work. Here's a situation. A reason why a lot of these companies were able to make a lot of money is because they laid off a lot of people. They laid off a lot of 55-year-olds who had a lot of experience and had a lot of productivity, a lot of creativity. And they hired some when they had to, they hired some 22-year-olds, some younger people who didn't really have a lot of experience, but they were a lot cheaper. And they saved money because they didn't have to pay for health insurance. They didn't have to pay for higher wages for the older people. But then, they're going to run into a situation where they're going to hit a wall, where they're going to pay a price for not having a person with experience. They're going to pay a price for cutting the jobs. And when you cut these type of jobs, you eliminate a lot of consumers. And since this is such a consumer-based economy, when you take a lot of these people with decent or high incomes out of the economy, you have a situation where you have a less of an opportunity to sell products and sell services. So eventually they're going to hit a wall, and they're going to stop being able to cut, and do these little tactics to save money, and they're going to be dealing with a situation where they're going to be bringing in less revenue. And that's going to force them to make more cuts. So they're going to hit a wall.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right, Reginald. And I get into this debate with people all the time when I start hearing the Republican argument of and really it's the red team's argument that we got to get all these lazy no good so and so's back to work. There's plenty of jobs out there. Maybe they got to move from Michigan down to wherever, Alabama, and work in a chicken facility for Tyson Chicken. They're blaming the people who have been affected the hardest from this Wall Street generated depression. What people don't realize is people who want to join on, that maybe still have a job and they want to join in the Republican argument that it's a bunch of lazy people that led us to where we're at, and it'll be good for the country if we get rid of 43 million people on food stamps or the extending unemployment benefits. I point out to them, as soon as we lose all these safety nets, everything goes. Austerity that's going to be placed on to citizens now who don't have a job. Maybe they're sitting there on 80 weeks of unemployment. When they lose that, when 99 runs out and there is no more, that affects everybody because, this is what you just said, a consumer-based economy. And, the billions and billions of dollars that have been trickled out into this economy in the form of safety nets, when it dries up and austerity hits, it's going to affect everybody. It isn't just going to be the people who have hit the hardest. It's going to affect them the hardest, of course, but people like me who rely on sales of some form, and that is most of the economy.
Yeah, it's consumer service-based. So that's the type of situation they're dealing with at this point. We have, 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every single day starting this January. 10,000 every single day. That's a lot of people retiring. And a lot of people, they lost their jobs and their 401ks were eaten up, or they still have their 401ks, but the value of it has decreased, even though the nominal number has increased because of inflation. That's a whole other issue there. And you have these people who their whole strategy was, real estate is going up, so this is going to be my retirement nest egg or whatever.
And they've lost it all. This is going to be my strategy.
Yeah, we'll see.
Right.
Well, they're in big trouble.
Hold on a sec, Reg. Hold on one sec. We'll do this last break for the show. We'll get right back into it. 877-342. I want to hear some of your guys' prediction. 877-342-6673. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Wide Awake Radio. I'm typing into the chat room. I thought I could beat the break, but I couldn't. So some of the questions about a 2-hour show, I will be answering them in the chat room. If I don't get it all during the show, I'll answer those questions after the show in there. And look, I want to first of all thank everybody who comes out every night and jumps in this chat room. It's we're typically at 100 or over every single night. And I know a lot of you guys want to support the show, and would, I just got asked a question in the chat room, how much do we have to, what would it take for donations to get a 2-hour show? I'm not going to do that. I'm not. If we can, I'm working on different angles. If I can do it, it's going to be through advertisers. I don't want to come out here. I won't come out here and say feel sorry for my 3-legged dog tripod and donate. It's just it's not what I'm going to do. So It is my goal in 2011. I'm going to make this prediction. All right, here we go. Here's another prediction, Reginald. In 2011, I will have a 2-hour radio show at some point. And I'm not going to do it by beating up the listeners, the few awakened people in this country. I'm not going to beat you up for donations every month because I frankly find it repulsive when I am let down by somebody that way. Now, I donate to some causes, and that's great. I do it because that's what I want to do, and I think it's worth supporting. If you want to donate, fine, please do. There's a button on the homepage, but it's not going to be something I come out here to do to keep this show alive. I think we get good enough guests like Reginald and the guests we have on every night. The show continues to grow. That is worth something. And it's worth something to people who want to advertise products. Austin Rare Coins is a great example of it. He came onto the show. He's had great response from you guys out there. So that's what we need more of, and I am working on that. So we will have a 2-hour show in 2011. So I guess I just burned up 2 minutes saying what I was going to do in the chat room. So anyway, Reginald, I want to pose some of these predictions to you. I'm going to run down my list here. Austerity is my number one prediction for 2011. That word is going to have new meaning 1 year from now. When we sit here and we talk about austerity, it isn't just going to be a word that came into the conversation a few months ago. It's going to have a whole new meaning. And when you hear the word austerity, I think the first thing that's going to pop into your mind is violent images that we were going to see in 2011. People are going to lose it when their safety net falls away, when they hear for the umpteenth time, we needed to bail out Wall Street in order for Main Street to be healthy, and when they're just frankly ignored. Reginald, I can't tell you the last time I've heard a mainstream news organization talk about the plight of the people in the Midwest. How about you?
Well, I mean, they don't care. They don't work for the people. They work for whichever corporation owns them. I mean, they work for General Electric. They don't work for the American people. They're not interested in informing the American people. So, I mean, I don't hear a lot of that either. Although I did hear some stories where they did, I believe one network, NBC, focused on one town. Yeah, I believe it was Indiana or some town. It was Eckhart or something like that. So I thought that was a pretty good series. But after that, I didn't really see anything from the mainstream media about that. They seem to exist in some type of weird vacuum. And I think they're going to lose a lot of credibility over time.
That's interesting because the number 2 thing I have written on my list here, actually it's about the third thing because I got volatility, gold and silver, and then media. I have a prediction for the general mainstream media in 2011. 2 things are going to happen. That 54% number, I think, is going to grow by at least 10%. I think we're going to find out that nearly 2/3 of the people in the country no longer, when polled, are going to trust the mainstream media. I think programs like this, I think channels like yours on YouTube and mine on YouTube are going to continue to grow. Reginald, did you ever think in your wildest dreams when you first plopped that camera down, not very long ago? I mean, I know you've joined in 2006, but you've only been doing economic videos for the last couple of years. You've got 1,014,000 channel views, 2.9 million video views. That's crazy. 3 million video views and 13,000 subscribers. I think this trend is going to continue early, hard, and fast in 2011. And by mid-2011, just like you see the financial services industry flood D.C. with their paid spokesmen, their lobbyists, to get agenda legislation passed for them, you're going to see the media doing the same thing, and a crackdown of some sort or other is coming to alternative media. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like. It could be a licensing issue. It could be a direct shutdown. Maybe Reginald, maybe you're going to have to get some kind of credential to come on and put out news on YouTube.
Well, that would be typical of what you would see in a corporatist fascist country. And unfortunately, we're seeing more characteristics of fascism in America. We've seen it with the Patriot Act. We've seen it with military commissions. Act. We've seen it with Obamacare, basically legislation in which the government oversteps its boundary and completely ignores the Constitution. So TARP being another huge example, basically a merger between corporate and state power, where you have the government taking money from the people and giving it to corporations. That's pretty much corporatism when the corporations take over the country. So we're seeing a lot of those signs, and of course there's TSA and that nonsense. I believe that, well, I know that there was a report that some airports, when they actually test their security, they had failure rates of over 70%. 70%. They brought guns and knives through the system. They couldn't even detect it. So it just shows you that the TSA nonsense is foolishness. And a lot of this stuff is sort of a tribute to what our society is really becoming. It's becoming more of a fascist society. And it's really unfortunate. I just want to say something. Oh, go ahead.
No, I agree with you. And TSA, 60,000 employees, and I think it's up to 62,000. And to my knowledge, not one event has been prevented because of TSA. Not one single event. You know, the underwear bomber, he was caught by a flight attendant and a passenger. I don't know if, maybe you can enlighten me, but I've not read, and I've Googled this because, I've talked about it on the show before. But it is a class that has been created in this country. It's part of the police state class. And you run the risk of destroying the economy even faster when you take away the police state class. So it's almost as we're backed into a corner. We've created a juggernaut. An apparatus is in place throughout the country now that is it's feeding on itself. And the end is going to be if we have states fail because of their budgets, if we have municipalities fail because of their budgets, you end up with a absolute 100%, if the Fed stepped up and bailed them out, government-controlled economy, plain and simple, fascism, like you said.
Yeah. So what else is on your list? I'm curious, because I have a list of my own right here.
Okay, well, before I do that, we got plenty of time left, so we do have a caller. Do you want to take a call?
Oh, yeah. Sounds great.
Okay, Guns Rock from the chat room is on the line. Guns, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Thanks for the call.
Oh, great. Well, I don't know if I really had any predictions for the coming year, other than things getting much worse and potentially catastrophically worse, but I mainly wanted to call and tell you about something I heard from my friend. He works in Nevada. He works in a firearms store. And, well, it's a sporting goods store, and they sell firearms. And every month they have a sales goal for the whole store. And this month, well, actually last month, was $120,000 of revenue. And the thing that's totally blew me away was, and this is in one of the worst states in the entire country. They made $700,000 in revenue. They completely blew the sales goal because they're selling incredible amounts of firearms, survival stuff. They have people that have, like, liberals, diehard liberals, doctors, professionals. People have never bought anything like this, coming in there buying multiple assault rifles and all sorts of stuff, and people are just preparing for the absolute worst. They're talking about revolution and martial law breaking out. It just stunned me to hear that, and I think that's going to happen across the rest of the country eventually.
Let me ask you. I didn't hear you. What state are you in?
Well, I'm in Texas, but I'm still in touch with people that I knew in Nevada.
No, what state was the gun shop in? What
Pardon?
state's the gun shop in?
Nevada.
Nevada, okay.
And I asked him, so where are people coming up with this money? Because I thought that, most people would be pretty dry already. And he says, well, a lot of people just charge it. And he doesn't think any of them are ever going to pay it off. They're just saying, the boat is going off the waterfall here, or whatever you want to say. And they know there's not going to be a recovery, so they're just maxing out and getting all this stuff that they think they're going to need to survive.
Wow. Right, and I see that being in Nevada, with the tension that's on obviously down there with on the Mexican border, I'm sure it's
I got to tell you before I forget. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
that's right.
He also, because he used to be on the police force for like 20 years, so he knows all sorts of people from state, local, federal law enforcement, and he talks to them about things. And he's told me all sorts of stuff. I don't want to say his name or anything, but he has a friend in Homeland Security who told him They watch a group called Brown Pride, which is like this really big Mexican mafia. And they had a big meeting in Los Angeles, and they videotaped it. It's not on the news or anything. They won't report on it, but these people are openly talking about how they're going to retake the South and, violently take back sections of the United States.
What's the name of this? Brown what?
Brown Pride.
Brown Pride. Okay, I want to keep a note of that.
And this is a gang of, 50,000 plus that's multi-state, multinationals, pretty large.
Yeah, well, there's a claim, when America was set up, I don't want to get too deep into history here, but I mean, at one time Mexico did own the West Coast all the way up to San Francisco, I believe. Somebody might correct me on that if I'm wrong. So there's also a claim on the West Coast by the Chinese. I mean, and there's talk in the Chinese government of, how they were built out of the West Coast of what is now the United States way back when. So is it possible? Absolutely. I mean, you throw us into some kind of breakdown. Let me just say one thing: the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union wasn't just Russia. I mean, it had all the satellite countries around it. What happened? They broke up and they're independent nations now. Could the same thing happen here if we had a massive currency collapse? We had absolute failure in the ability of our police to keep civil unrest tamped down, and you just had mob rule. Absolutely, that could happen here. Guns, I appreciate the call. Did you have anything else?
A while ago, he had also talked about how Homeland Security had been intercepting container ships from China. Well, you know how big a container is. These are 60 feet long or something like that.
Right.
And they were getting all these containers, and they inspect a random amount of them, and they were finding some that are just packed with web gear, assault rifles, ammunition, just enough to where you could load out a division of soldiers with infantry gear. And this is coming from China. This is China stuff. It's pretty crazy what's going on, and it's not being talked about.
Yeah, and that's why I've said time and time again, when something does happen, it's going to surprise most people. It'll probably even surprise the people listening. It'll surprise us. How far advanced. I see stories about tunnels being dug from Mexico to the United States, and all these drugs and stuff are running. Well, what else is running through there? Here we are prosecuting wars all over the globe, and our own country is. We have containers with Chinese gear, military gear coming in. We have tunnels between Mexico and the United States with who knows what coming through. Reginald, did you have thoughts on that?
I'm thinking, what will the response be by everybody else to this whole pride thing? I mean, there's definitely going to be a response. And I'm still thinking about the credit card issue. That really, people buying guns and putting them on their credit cards. It'd be nice to have an AK-47 myself, but get an arsenal one.
Guns, I'm going to let you go because I got another call. Unless you had another something else to add.
No, I'm good. I just hope that everyone please take it extremely seriously. I know we talk about this on the radio and on YouTube and everything, and it's just kind of like our culture now that we just talk about it. But it will get to the point where you will need to be armed, to be prepared to fight and kill and protect your property, your life, and the country. So if you're not trained, get trained. If you're not mentally prepared, get mentally prepared. And that's all I got.
Get prepared. Great message, Guns. Thank you very much for the call. Let's go to, just so I can get this in before we run out of time, Alex from New Jersey. Are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Yeah, you bet.
Yes, hi. I actually have more of a question about dollarization. I believe that there's 3 or 4 nations within the Western Hemisphere that are dollarized nations. That means their economies works in the effective currency is the U.S. dollar. I was wondering, what's going to happen with those economies, and how does that affect us?
Reginald, do you know what countries in the Western Hemisphere operate with the U.S. dollar as their main currency, not just reserve currency?
No, I do not.
Yeah, Alex, I'm not an expert on that either.
Panama, Turks and Caicos, Marshall Islands, Caribbean Netherlands, and the British Virgin Islands.
I have a hunch that if they're operating with the U.S. dollar and our economy collapses, their economy collapses, plain and simple. But the truth is, Alex, even with all the trouble we've had in the last couple of years, our economy goes down, and it affects the whole world. So obviously, most countries hold our dollar as the reserve currency. It goes down, their economy goes down. Countries that are dealing direct, using our currency as theirs, of course, they're going to feel the effects of that, so it'll be pandemonium. Absolutely. Alex, did you have anything else you wanted to cover? I'm going to take some of the questions from the chat room.
No, that'd be all. Thank you very much, Mr. McGrath. You guys have a good evening. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You too. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate the call. Yeah, Reginald, using the credit cards to load up, I'd be lying if I said that I never thought of that.
I did.
See how much. What's
but
that?
I've always been hesitant. I never liked the idea of doing something like that. It's something that always freaked me out. I've always been afraid of debt.
Well, if a guy knew, if you could know when, which is impossible, then honestly, I do know people. I'm not going to lie. I know people who've bought tens of thousands of dollars in precious metals. Some of these people bought when silver was at $9 an ounce, tens of thousands of dollars in precious metals. So these people, they hit a home run, because now they've tripled their money. They paid off the credit card, and they're still sitting on a lot of profit. I'm kind of with you. I'm terrified of going out and spending $50,000, and then all of a sudden I have the monthly bill showing up, and I'm forced to walk away from it. I think at some point all debt is going to fall apart, and I think even people who think they're under control now are going to find out they're really not, because even if you're day-to-day living, you have no debt whatsoever, and this argument is made quite often. I'm debt-free. Everybody should do just like I did and buy a piece of land, have no debt whatsoever, and that is great advice, but the fact is when the economy falls apart, you're still affected, and you're still paying for that land. There's no place that I know of where you're not going to have the state knocking on your door to say, hey, guess what? We need revenue. Property taxes are coming up. So the idea of property ownership is almost a myth now in this country. About 7 minutes left. I want to hear your list, Reginald, so I'm going to shut up. Give me your list.
Well, I think the euro crisis is going to escalate. And by escalate, I mean, I think we're going to have at least one country pull out of the Eurozone. It may be Ireland, it may be Greece, it may be Portugal. I think if the Germans are smart, they'll get out of there because, why would they carry all that debt? They don't have a lot of debt. It's all these other countries that have the debt, and they're pretty much carrying these other countries. I think it's stupid for them to continue to do it, but that's a whole other issue there. So I think we're going to see a Eurozone crisis escalate. If there is any type of revolution, it'll probably be in Europe, in European countries, not really America. If there's violence here, the entitlement system breaks down, you're going to see violence, you're going to see civil unrest. Not necessarily something, not necessarily a change in which you will see a revolution or anything constructive, but you may see violence here in America if that happens. Well, you will see violence in America if that does happen. If the dollar crisis develops, I think we're going to see at least gold hit $1,700, silver hit $40 an ounce. We're going to see oil hit $129 per barrel. If there's a dollar crisis, you may see all those things rise far, far higher than those numbers I just gave you. Like I said, California, some type of default on their debt, or they'll receive some type of federal bailout, more likely a default. If the financial system falls apart, you're going to see at least 300 major banks fall apart. You're going to see the FDIC go through bankruptcy or get some type of additional funding, I should say, from Congress. Huge surge in food prices. That's going to go up no matter what because of the surge in prices in wheat and corn recently. Somebody mentioned unemployment. I think there's a real possibility that it could go up to as much as 11 or 12% U3, 19% U6. If you don't know what it is, basically U6 is a broader number. I think you're going to see an increase in crime, at least a 5% increase in violent crime, and I think that's going to happen because of the trends you're seeing all across the country. You're going to see more poverty, more people losing their jobs, and more people losing entitlements and checks and being able to support their family. And then you add that along with the fact that we've seen cuts in police departments all across the country for the last 2 years. On the upside, I'm hoping that we're going to see a medical breakthrough in HIV or cancer, mainly because they came across antibody that could that neutralizes 91% of the strands of HIV. So that's sort of like a hint towards something a little bit more positive, maybe a breakthrough in medicine, in the sense that it may not be a cure, but it may lead to it. I think we may also see a breakthrough in energy as well. And those are some of the things that's pretty much on my mind.
Where do you see the energy coming at? A breakthrough in solar or wind, or do you think we'll have some kind of a national program to get nuclear power plants in every state?
Well, by nuclear, I hope it's nuclear fusion, not fission. Because with fission, you have nuclear waste, and you're basically you're dividing atoms. With fusion, you're bringing the atoms together to create energy. And you have to deal with nuclear waste.
You're thinking we're going to see a new discovery or a new technique in energy. I like that optimistic prediction, and I hope it comes true.
Or solar energy, or maybe we can capture solar energy in a more efficient manner. That can also be pretty key as well.
Yeah, I sit around sometimes thinking, here we are, 130 years after the invention of the internal combustion engine, and basically, the car I jump into every morning still starts the same way as the one Dr. Diesel invented way all those years ago. And it's corporatism it's crony capitalism that has kept it that. I mean, look how technology doubles and triples every year, and that rate is speeding up. Yet we're still using the same worn out methods to transport ourselves around or to heat our homes. And it has led to, that could be directly linked to the wars that we've experienced over the last century. Our lists are really similar, Demcad. Let's see, I got volatility early 2011, and we're going to see it spike in 2011 and into 2012. Gold and silver. Our predictions were really close on silver. I'm calling for $40 an ounce silver. I think it'll be by fall, late summer of 2011. Although I'm going to temper that with the fact that if you follow stuff like the Baltic Dry Index and you see world economies slowing down, even emerging nations slowing down, the industrial application for silver could cause that to slow the value of silver. I don't think we're ever going back to $20, but I think that we very easily could hit 40 this year. I think gold. And you already see this, so it's not that huge of a prediction, but I think it's going to start to be the investment vehicle of choice for a lot of people. So I'm gonna say 22,000 to 2,500 in 2011. I think more and more people are going to jump on the metals wave, and it's going to cause outside this community, people. They know gold. They don't know. Most people don't know silver. If you ask them if they have silver, they're like, "What are you talking about? You mean silverware?" They don't realize the investment potential. So I think we're going to see a bigger spike in gold. I had the media crack down on alternative media. Austerity is coming due to this wave election, and I think we're going to see actual pushback by citizens in this country within the first. Oh, yeah, I hate giving days on. Within the first 6 months of 2011, rhetoric's going to start to flow from the right-wing media, Fox News, on how we got to get the deadbeats back on the working rolls, and we will see pushback almost early in 2011. The Federal Reserve, I think, is going to come under even greater scrutiny than they did in 2008 with the abject failure of QE2. And I think I'm going to have to leave it there because I got some music rolling in. Reginald, I greatly appreciate your visits, your insight. I thank you for what you do and what you've done for the last several years, but thank you for all you've done in 2010. I look forward to having you on here many times in 2011. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. Well over 100 people all night long. Stay tuned for Jeff Rentz because he's coming up next. We'll see you all tomorrow night with David Chu and his predictions. Should be another really interesting show. We'll see you then.
The rest of the world watching at the end of the day, both scared and angry, like, what did he say?